What would you do if a stranger's necklace revealed the daughter you gave up years ago was standing right in front of you? This is Victoria Chambers' story. A powerful CEO whose chance encounter would change everything. The golden afternoon light filtered through Central Park's canopy as Victoria Chambers sat alone on a weathered bench, her phone illuminating her face with endless emails. At 37, she had built Chambers Media Group into an influential empire. Yet despite her corner office overlooking Manhattan and her name appearing in Forbes regularly, she felt an emptiness that grew deeper each day. Success felt hollow without someone to share it with, and loneliness followed her back to her luxury penthouse every night, reminding her of the sacrifices she had made to reach the top of her industry. A small, delicate voice interrupted her scrolling, pulling her attention from the screen. Looking up, Victoria found a little girl standing before her, around 3.5 years old, with beautiful blonde curls catching the sunlight like a halo. The child wore a pink dress with a white knitted cardigan and clutched a well-loved teddy bear, radiating innocent curiosity. But what made Victoria's breath catch wasn't the child's angelic appearance. It was the necklace hanging from her neck, a distinctive gold locket with an intricate rose design that Victoria would recognize anywhere in the world, because 5 years ago, terrified and alone, she had placed that very locket with her newborn daughter before giving her up for adoption. The little girl smiled warmly and introduced herself as Emma, explaining that she had approached this particular bench because Victoria looked sad, and her mommy had always told her to make sad people feel better. She gestured toward a young woman nearby who was clearly her nanny, watching carefully but allowing the interaction. Victoria struggled to find her voice, her professional composure crumbling as she stared at this child who couldn't possibly be who her racing heart insisted she was. Yet when she managed to speak, she asked about the beautiful necklace with trembling emotion. Emma touched the locket with reverence and explained that her mommy had given it to her before going to heaven, that her daddy said it was special because it came from someone important. She wore it every day to keep her mommy close to her heart, and as she spoke with simple childhood faith, Victoria felt tears streaming down her face, smudging her carefully applied makeup. 5 years earlier, Victoria had been struggling to launch her startup while dealing with an unplanned pregnancy after her boyfriend abandoned her. Terrified and working 18-hour days, she had convinced herself that adoption was selfless love, but she insisted on leaving her mother's gold rose locket with the baby as an invisible connection. Then Emma asked the question that shattered Victoria's heart. Would she be her mommy for just one day? Her daddy was sad without a mommy. She was sad too, and maybe if Victoria could be her mommy for one day, they could all be happy together. A male voice called Emma's name, and Victoria looked up to see a handsome man approaching with concern across his features, probably late 30s with dark hair and kind eyes, wearing casual weekend clothes. He apologized for his daughter's forwardness, explaining that Emma was exceptionally friendly and sometimes didn't understand boundaries with strangers. But as he spoke, his eyes traveled from Emma to Victoria's face, and he froze completely. Recognition flashed across his features, followed by shock, and he whispered Victoria's name as though seeing a ghost materialize before him. Victoria stared for several long seconds before recognition dawned. She was looking at Andrew Chen, a former colleague from years ago before she launched Chambers Media Group. They had been friendly co-workers but not close, and she had lost touch completely after starting her company, never knowing anything about his personal life. As understanding passed between them like electricity, Victoria stated, rather than asked, that Andrew had adopted Emma, and impossible puzzle pieces began falling into place around them. Andrew's eyes moved from Victoria's face to the golden locket around Emma's neck and back again, the full weight of the situation settling over them like a revelation. He asked Emma to play with her nanny while he spoke with Victoria about something important, and though the child seemed confused by the sudden tension, she obediently skipped away, leaving her father and birth mother sitting together on the park bench, with careful distance between them, both struggling to process this miraculous coincidence. Andrew explained in a quiet, emotion-heavy voice that he and his wife Rebecca had adopted Emma at 3 days old, receiving her from an agency that provided limited information about the birth mother, a young, scared woman wanting to give her baby a better life. The agency gave them the gold locket, with strict instructions that Emma should receive it when old enough to understand its significance. And Rebecca treasured that necklace, recognizing it as a symbol of birth, mother's love, and sacrifice. 2 years after adoption, Rebecca was diagnosed with aggressive cancer, and upon receiving her terminal prognosis, one of her first actions was placing that locket around Emma's neck, wanting her daughter to have this connection and understand she was loved by more people than she knew. Rebecca passed 6 months later, leaving Andrew raising Emma alone. Victoria wept openly as Andrew shared this story, grieving for the woman who had loved her daughter and confessing through tears that giving Emma up had been the most difficult decision of her entire life. She had been 29, building a company from nothing with no support system or financial stability, convinced adoption was the only way to give her baby the life she deserved. But she regretted that decision every single day. All her professional success, every achievement and accolade felt meaningless because she had given away the only truly precious thing, and no amount of money or status could fill the void her daughter's absence created in her heart and soul. After a long silence filled with playground sounds and bird song, Andrew said something that changed everything. He reminded Victoria that Emma had asked her to be her mother for 1 day, then posed an extraordinary question about whether she would consider being Emma's mother for much longer, perhaps permanently. Victoria stared in shock, unable to process his suggestion, and Andrew explained that he had been raising Emma alone for 18 months and felt himself drowning despite his best efforts. His daughter needed a mother figure to teach her things he couldn't, to provide perspective and connection he was unable to offer. And the universe had brought her birth mother back at the exact moment they needed her most. He wasn't demanding immediate decisions, but asking Victoria to consider spending time with Emma, allowing them to know each other, and seeing whether this impossible coincidence might be fate offering a second chance. Over following weeks and months, Victoria integrated herself into Andrew and Emma's lives with tentative steps that gradually became confident. Their relationship progressed from afternoon park visits to dinners at Andrew's home to weekend museum outings, and throughout this process, Emma gravitated toward Victoria with instinct that felt like recognition. Victoria discovered Emma loved painting and storytelling and asking endless questions about everything, and she reorganized her entire life to accommodate these precious moments. Andrew learned Victoria's workaholic tendencies had been fueled by grief and regret, that every business success attempted to prove she could have provided for Emma. 6 months after that fateful autumn afternoon in Central Park, Andrew asked Victoria to move into their home as Emma's mother, and 3 months later, their relationship evolved into something deeper and romantic, as shared love for Emma created a foundation for their own connection. Exactly 1 year after Victoria sat on that park bench and saw her daughter wearing her mother's locket, Andrew proposed in that exact same spot, with Emma serving as ring bearer and announcing to everyone that her mommy and daddy were getting married. On their wedding day, Victoria knelt to Emma's level, both wearing matching ivory dresses with delicate lace details, and reminded her daughter that she had once asked Victoria to be her mother for just 1 day. Victoria promised she would be Emma's mother for the rest of her life, for every day that followed, and Emma, touching the gold rose locket that brought them together, replied with wisdom beyond her years that she had known Victoria was her mommy from that first moment, that the necklace had told her so. Sometimes things we give away find their way back when we need them most, carrying second chances we thought lost forever. And sometimes a child's innocent request for one day of love opens the door to a lifetime of healing, forgiveness, and family. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more true stories about reunion and redemption. Comment below about your own second chances. Your story might give someone else hope that broken things can be made whole again.